Kingpin, and you're listening to the Air Raid Hour, a Buffalo Fanatics video experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Air Raid Hour. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me, as always, on Twitter at Judge Mathis. Co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money, the marathon man. I think he did all 16, 17 hours of our draft coverage this week. I wimped out after the first round because of my fiance's birthday. And also, since it's the day after the draft, and you've probably heard enough of us talking draft here in the Air Raid Hour, we thought we'd bring in a third perspective. So we got Damond Talbot from Draft Diamonds. How you doing today, Damon?
Hey, what's up, guys? Man, that has to be the best intro on the internet, man.
It's good. I like it.
I felt like I was in Iron Man, and then boom, I was in the Twilight Zone. Let's go. Let's talk about some football.
and I mean, you were an Iron Man this weekend, legitimately. I'll tell you what, I had to miss rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. Like I said, it was my fiance's birthday. You know, we're getting married this year. Had to be nice and special. Had to take her out. Like, you know, you couldn't be like, hey, babe, can we do it the day after your birthday? Couldn't do that this year. Couldn't get away with it. I literally turned on the notifications on my phone. Like, you were the person keeping me up to date every second, every pick. I knew who the Bills were picking, when they were picking because of you. So thank you for that, sir. I really appreciate that.
Hey, man, you know what? Happy wife, happy life, man. So I'm glad I could help.
You really helped us on our live coverage too, because we had made all these graphics for over 240 players for the draft, and your notifications are really helping us to get it kind of head of the game and have those graphics ready to queue up once the players' picks came in. So, yeah, it was a long weekend for a lot of people. I know the two of us definitely put in the time, so it's kind of nice to now be here with you and just talk about what actually happened, and now that the speculation part's over.
Speaking of being here, want to welcome into the chat a whole bunch of people. We got Corey Buffalo, Matt the Bills fan, Ombre Lob is in the house. It's Random Cam, Jason Humbert. We got Pierre the Kingpin, 999 Silver, Bangarang 74. I haven't seen Bangarang 74, so welcome to the show if you've never seen this show before. Eric Bunsell, Joshua Arnold, Harold Fuller, Bruh Magic, SCL Films, Josh Clark, John Herring, Bobby Sherman, Randy Hardman in the building. I know he's still licking his wounds from no South Carolina players getting drafted by the Bills. Andy Kosaliski, Sheldon Cole. So a whole bunch of you guys, Jonathan Muirs, all in the house, ready to talk this draft. And Dave, before we get started with the talk a little bit about Symbol and maybe whose stock is on the rise now.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because so symbol.app/fanatics, get your $10 deposit bonus. I was very curious to see how some of these teams' values were going to change after the draft. And a team who I thought actually had a very nice draft, the Carolina Panthers, value went down on the Symbol stock exchange there. So I'm really interested maybe on getting in on the Panthers right now with their value down. I thought they had a really good draft. So I'm really eyeing the Panthers. So I'm going to get in there, symbol.app/fanatics, get that $10 deposit bonus, no minimums.
And I mean, let's get right into it. Damon, I want your take. Like what's your take on the draft overall? I'm not going to ask you to give a draft grade. I think we're above that here at the Air Raid Hour, giving a grade to the draft. But what are your overall thoughts? Because this was definitely an unexpected, I think, draft from Brandon Beane and company.
You know what? I think deep down inside, I think Brandon Beane and company, I think they went and they focused primarily on getting guys that can come in, maybe not necessarily today to make a difference, but let's get guys that can come in over time and take over spot. We have some older guys on our roster. You look at our defensive line, Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison aren't getting any younger. Yes, they're great at who they are and they're great pass rushers, but they're 34 years old. I mean, there's a time and place for everything. And I think right now that you've seen what happened in the Super Bowl. Kansas City could not get anything going. So, you know what? You got to add to that arsenal, and you got to add pass rushers. And I think Brandon Beane, it fell right to him. I mean, how can you not? I mean, if you're just picking best player available, both of those guys were first-round picks, the first two pass rushers, in my opinion. Yeah. You have 2 first-round picks for passer. I mean, I can see why he went back to back. He was probably like, "Are you kidding me? We got to take him." So I mean, overall, the draft itself was, as you said, it was exhausting, but it was worth it. I think the Bills did a really good job, and they added some tenacity to their roster.
Yeah, we got Brooke coming in with the super chat. I always appreciate you, Brooke. She says, Beans always thinking long-term rather than short-term, sustained success over success for only a few years. And I think that's where Brandon Beans' head was at, because I see a whole bunch of people saying like, well, how do we get better? How do we beat the Chiefs? All these different things that I'm seeing. And I mean, to me, this draft with these two pass rushers, Jerry Hughes is a free agent after this year. Mario Addison is a free agent after this year. We have to pay Josh Allen within the next 1-2 years a big contract. Defensive end is another position where you have to pay big money. So if you're paying Josh Allen on a big contract and these two guys come in and these two guys hit their ceiling by year 2, year 3, more Rousseau than Basham, because Basham is probably a little bit more ready now than Rousseau, but these guys get clicking by year 2, year 3, you have first round edge rushers, first round quality edge rushers, while Josh Allen is on a big contract and they're on a rookie contract. So kudos to him for thinking so far ahead, because so many people are like, they're mad at this draft, but I'm like, what do you want? It was a COVID offseason. So Brandon Beane decided, all right, I'm just going to bring everybody back. And this is a team that went to the AFC Championship game last year, and we're literally bringing every single person back and making a few minor upgrades here. You have Emmanuel Sanders over John Brown, which is an upgrade. You're probably going to restructure and rescheme your play calling on offense a little bit to fix the running game. You're going to add bodies. You're going to add competition to the offensive line. And then you're going to go and you're going to help your DBs out by adding some pass rushers in the draft. I don't know what anyone else could want. Like, we weren't going to mortgage our future. We weren't going to mortgage our future like the New Orleans Saints or the Philadelphia Eagles and go all in on this Josh Allen window. Sean McDermott believes in sustained success. So I just don't know what people were expecting. I don't know, Dave, what's your take on sort of the big picture of this all?
Yeah, the big picture to me, look, I kind of put a tweet out there earlier today, and I said I was going to explain kind of my view of what it means to trust the process, right? And what that phrase means to me. And I think it's nuanced, right? It's not a situation for me where it's like 100% of the moves, you have to necessarily be so rah-rah about, but it's also not like 0% of them. Like, it's not binary, right? I think the thing we have to remember is that the process itself is going to be, it's not linear, right? I think there's going to be some ups and downs. So like being, he's going into this draft doing the best he can to try to set the Bills up for, not just now, because we already have a good roster now, and we know that because of what happened last year, but for into the future when some of these contracts come off the books, like Hughes and Addison, like Damon mentioned, and when Josh is on a big contract. So is every single move going to work out? Like, no, that's not realistic to think that. So, you can trust the process, but my point is that the process, you have to understand that the process is going to have some peaks and valleys. Now, Bean has had more peaks than he's had valleys, which is why we tend to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. And in this case, I certainly will, with how this draft sort of played out. Now, obviously, as we're going through the live coverage, it's a different animal, because we pick one pick, we pick 2 picks, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, we still have 5-6 more picks to make in this draft. Let's not judge how we feel necessarily about this whole thing until we see how the rest of the draft plays out. And then to me, my overall thought was like, once we hit that 6th round, it really rounded out the draft, in my view, when we traded back with the Texans, had those 3 6th rounders. We really rounded out the draft with some other positions and some other areas to really kind of fill in some needs. So for me, I think the approach was patient for Bean, and it was pretty interesting to me how the reports came out on Friday, how he was ready to trade back with an NFC team if it wasn't for one player being on the board, and that was Basham. Like Damon said, could have been a first-round guy. He was a top 5 edge in my personal ranking, so whatever that's worth. But I think the value was just way too high for them to pass it up there. So for a team that's already good, I'm not going to have too many issues with that. If we were bad and needed a lot of things, then you could maybe say like we would have had an issue with it, but that's not the case.
And I got this video clip I want to play from Z-Bot's interview with Harrison Phillips, because if you look at our roster on defense, everything but CB2 looks like super solid. And even CB2, Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace didn't exactly embarrass themselves last year. They held their own. And now this year, there's probably going to be a better pass rush in front of them. But people who are worried about, not getting a one tech for Tremaine, or not picking up more DBs, or getting maybe some pass rushers that need to be developed in Gregory Rousseau, I want you guys to take a clip at what Harrison Phillips had to say in his conversation with Z-Bot here, and then we'll discuss it on the other side.
Throughout the year, not having the fans in the stands, especially on defense, where I feel like it's almost more important having that factor on your side.
Yeah. Well, Baltimore, and we had 10,000 people in there. They had back-to-back false start, delay a game, false start, backed up in their end zone because of the fans. And that was with 10,000 people. And so that's just like a small catalyst to show what really could have happened for us this year, and it really would have helped us out on defense. It's pretty hard to line up on defense and us have to say our call. You got some of the smartest offensive-minded quarterbacks in the world that can sometimes hear what we're saying, and then he can check out, and everyone on the offense can hear what he's saying. Everyone's on the same page because he can call out his audibles and everybody can hear it. That really puts the defense at a disadvantage, and I think that's why you saw a few more higher scoring games for us this year.
David, I want your thoughts. Like, do the Buffalo Bills improve just by the fact that it's not going to be that COVID dynamic last year? We're probably most likely going to have full football stadiums. Is just that alone going to make the defense better?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to say that the fans make a difference. I mean, I'm sure they feed off of it a little bit, but I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills made it to the AFC Championship with Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson and Taron Johnson, and they didn't really have that. I mean, they had the exact same team that they do right now. Now you're adding the opportunity. I can tell you what, you want to know what makes a cornerback a lot better? A pass rush. When you have less time to throw the ball, less time to make a decision, that's when your cornerbacks and your safeties are going to eat. And we're not just adding back. I think people are forgetting a huge, important thing. We're adding back our nose tackle, our for real our D tackle. We're getting Star back. You don't understand how much that's going to help your team alone. I'm willing to bet the sacks double this year. I don't know how many we had last year. You can put it on paper. Whatever we had on paper, it's going to double next year. Jerry Hughes will probably end up with 10 sacks again. And the rotation is going to be gross. I'm telling you, when you can push up in the middle, you got to start doing something to stop. How are you going to stop Star? How are you going to stop Ed Oliver? How are you going to stop that rotation? Even Justin Zimmer made his presence felt at D tackle. So I think the push that you're going to get from the D line aspect, I think that's going to be huge for your DBs. I think that's going to help your DBs grow, and I think they're going to be all right. As far as the fans screaming, yeah, you're going to get penalties and different things like that. But at the end of the day, yeah, I guess it can help. I'm not trying to belittle the Bills fans, right? Because I mean, you know what I mean. I love them, but I can say this: I think at the end of the day, it'll help them. But I don't think that's going to be a huge factor. I think the huge factor is going to come from the upfront on the line of what you got. Listen, Bills fans are going to get mad all day long. You're going to have somebody somewhere that doesn't like what they did. I have one guy in particular. I don't know. I'm not going to say his name, but he sends me a message every time the Bills make a move and say Bean's costing us. I mean, every time. And you know what? I love him.
You can just say it's Bobby. You can say it's Bobby.
It's not Bobby. I promise. But Bobby, stay out of my DMs if it's you. But maybe he has a side account or something. But you know what? Hey, look, at the end of the day, the guy's always upset, and the fans sometimes are always upset. But when you're drafting, the key of drafting is taking the best player available. I don't care. Look, in the first 3 rounds in the top 100, I would say in the top 100 picks, you have to take the best player available on your board. That's how you hit. Look at the past. Look at last year's draft. How many of those guys played a lot of time? How many guys? I mean, go just look at last year's draft. Look at the draft before. These guys are constantly getting playing time. Gabriel Davis was a late round pick and he shined. We don't even know what Hodgkins can do. Hodgins or whatever. We don't even know what he can do. We have so many wide receivers right now. Aaron Rodgers crying about Kumar. Send him back. Trade him. I mean, come on. I mean, we have the depth. So, I mean, I think people are just panicking right now. And at the end of the day, look, man, I mean, Brandon Beane hit a home run, I think. I love the Bills draft. And I
want to touch on something that you mentioned. You mentioned the inside pressure. And I think that's something that maybe we don't think about enough when it comes to how important that can be. And the two guys we picked with Rousseau and Basham seem to project really well to not just pass rush from the outside, but also to kind of rush from the inside as well. So to me, when, I started thinking about things like that, I'm like, well, even if you do kind of think that those guys aren't your sort of bendy type edge rushers that people kind of maybe wanted more of, but maybe the inside pressure is almost more important. And they obviously still can rush from the outside. So, Kendall, our producer in the background, he brought up a great point the other day. He was like down the road when these guys like get a little more comfortable, develop, like you could see a pass rushing set on a third down where you have Epinesa, Oliver, Rousseau, and Basham as your four guys on the field rushing from your front four. And to me, every single one of those guys outside of Oliver can get rushed from the outside or the inside. And so to me, that in my head, the wheels got spinning. I was like, wow, that could be something really nice for this team down the road. And it doesn't necessarily hurt you from an edge, like outside edge rushing standpoint. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Think of this. Do you remember a few years ago? I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
You guys remember a few years ago when we used to stand our D linemen up in the 4-3 and we were getting sacks like crazy. You remember this?
The Perry Fuel NASCAR defense, and then he took it to the Giants. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so now imagine this. Like you said, Ed Oliver on the field. Bump Ed Oliver. Think of this. What if you put Rousseau, Jerry Hughes, Basham, and Addison all on the same line, and you stun them? Who's going to block that? Who's going to block that type of speed coming up the middle? You're not stopping it. Somebody's getting through. And then you send Tremaine on a blitz up the gut. I'm telling you, listen, man, that's a vicious type. Look, Bills have something special. They have what they need. And I'm telling you, don't sleep on Ife Obade. That guy's an animal too. And you start adding these dudes to that. Oh man, they have some studs.
Abada and Rousseau, what are the two things that these guys have in common? And Epinesa, who's probably going to play a bigger role next year. All the things that these three guys have in common: length. These are tall dudes. We think back to the wild card game against the Colts last year, and I'm going to play a couple of clips of Rousseau and Basham last year. We think back to the Colts game last year. Phillip Rivers was dinking and dunking all over us. He was getting that football out quickly. But my thing is, it's like, good luck getting that football out quickly when you got a 6'7" guy sticking his mitts up in the air and getting his hand on the ball. So even if they're not generating sacks, if they can get their hands up in the air and they can clog the lane for Patrick Mahomes or the Phillip Rivers types of the world, the guys who are trying to get that ball out quickly, that's really going to help the Buffalo Bills have success. And a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Rousseau, Basham, Hughes, Ed Oliver, these are guys that can chase Patrick Mahomes out of the pocket and make him think. Like, he's going to have a hard time outrunning these dudes. So the athleticism to chase guys out of the pocket and the length to get their hands up into the passing lanes, as I think are two things that are really going to help the secondary as well, because those were some weaknesses again, especially against the Colts. That Colts game, I know we won, but Phillip Rivers dinking and dunking all over us. Really, it's ingrained more in my memory, I think, than anything last year.
Absolutely, man. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example too. Just look at the pressures that Rousseau was able to do. I know it was in 2019. I get that. And he did sit out a year. I think he had to just turn 20. How old is he?
I think he's 21 now, I believe.
Is he? So he just turned. So. It had to just happen though. Birthday just had to happen. So with that being said, hey, I get it, but I love that, man. Man, hold on, let me get one too. I
just want to confirm his age before I get called out. Yeah, he's 21. He turned 21 April 5th.
Okay, so yeah, just like I said a couple days ago. So
Yep.
you're talking about a guy who's young and has the ability to get after the QB, and that's how you win. You win in the trenches. Go and look at the great teams. They always win in the trenches. It pisses you off, but the Bills, that's exactly what the Bills have been doing. Stack up your trenches.
And we talked about like how we define value for each of these picks after like the first 2 days. And it was like the value for Rousseau is that if he had come out, or if he was eligible to come out in 2019, obviously he wasn't because he was too young, but had he been, he probably would have been a much higher draft pick. And had he played in 2020, he probably would have been a much higher draft pick. So the value Beans getting there with Rousseau is that by him opting out, that may have suppressed his draft value a little bit, not because he's a bad player, but because he only played 1 year, right? And so the same with Basham in the second round. Like you said, Dame, he just couldn't pass him up. And then that was kind of the story for the rest of the draft, it seemed like. So, for a team that was picking 30th, because obviously they were very good, you're not necessarily going to, get that super flashy, like, okay, like everyone's going to talk about him pick if you're picking in the top 10, but you could take a guy that could be that because of different circumstances that happen to come about with him, which then, by the way, the story of why he even opted out, right, to help his family out and all that, that just to me screams like a perfect fit culturally in the building. And then all of a sudden you start realizing, wow, this could be something special with this guy.
Yeah, we got John DeMarshi coming in with the super chat. I always appreciate you, John. He says, hey, in the Super Bowl losses to the New York Giants, Brady said of throwing versus Strahan, Tucker, Justin Tuck, JPP. Oh God, I haven't said this guy's name.
O.C. Umenyiora.
O.C. Umenyiora. I haven't said his name in forever. Yeah. It's like throwing it through a forest. Length bothers Mahomes and Brady. So yeah, I mean that to me, I think that's one of the more overlooked things. Is just the length of some of these guys. I mean, his nickname is freaking Groot for crying out loud. And Josh Clark comes in and says, Groot going to put on another 10 pounds of lean muscle this offseason and be an absolute terror in camp. We're about to talk about these defensive tackles next, or offensive tackles next. And I think that's one of the more underrated things is I see people saying guys like Gregory Rousseau aren't going to be like viable players until 2023. Guys like Spencer Brown aren't going to be viable players to 2023. I get where those people are coming from. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong in what they're saying, but I think when a guy is a freak like Gregory Rousseau, when a guy is a freak like Spencer Brown, get that guy into an NFL training camp, get that guy like 6 months into an NFL weight room. If something happens, like especially to one of our tackles, I think by mid-season, Spencer Brown, even though he's raw, just because he's such a freaking freak, he could be ready to go. Like he could be absolutely ready to go. So I'm with Josh. Like the ceiling is, and that's what you gotta love about this draft. This draft, like it's hard to do as a Bills fan, but think about 2023. Josh Allen has just gotten paid. Spencer Brown is finally hitting and clicking. Gregory Rousseau is finally hitting and clicking. You got Ed Oliver hitting and clicking, like Tremaine Edmunds hitting, like all these young, high ceiling players who are clicking at the same time. That's a recipe for a Super Bowl. Like that is truly a recipe for a Super Bowl. So let's pause the draft talk real quick and let's get to a little bit of Bills news today that was outside of the draft world. And that is Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmunds. The Buffalo Bills picked up the 5th-year option on both Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmunds. Now, Josh Allen was absolutely, everyone knew it was coming, but Brandon Beane sort of cast a little bit of a doubt by not saying he was sure about Tremaine Edmunds, and they'll wait as long as they needed to. And then he finally went and he finally pulled the trigger and picked up both 5th-year options. There are plenty of people in Bill's Twitter, many people on Bill's social media who say that they don't believe in Tremaine Edmunds as the middle linebacker of this football team. They don't believe in him as the signal caller of this football team. They think that he should move outside to edge or play a more blitzing position. So, Damon, my question to you is the Buffalo Bills picked up Tremaine Edmunds' 5th-year extension. A, was it the right move? B, how do you feel about Tremaine Edmunds going forward and becoming the franchise middle linebacker of this football team?
He's a Pro Bowler. I mean, I don't know what fans are watching. Does he get caught off sometimes? Yeah, when he's alone. But when he's with Matt Milano, did you not notice the difference? Mm-hmm. It's like they mesh perfectly together. They're both you gotta keep them together. It works. And I understand. You have to realize too, you have growing pains. He's still a baby. Yes, he's been in the league, but this dude's still very young. I mean, he's been calling the plays since his rookie year. They obviously trust him enough to do that. So if you're going to be at the young player in the defensive huddle and you're calling the plays, did you guys ever play football growing? The youngest player never even gets to talk in the damn huddle. And this team is trusting him to call the plays in the huddle, to be the quarterback of the defense. Yes, he's going to be great. It was the absolute right move to make. Extend them both. Mm-hmm. Keep this defense together. Keep it together and get another linebacker. You have another linebacker. AJ Klein's cool and everything. I'm telling you, that linebacker that we got from the Texans is a beast. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I can't even think of his name. He's a small schooler. That's horrible.
Tyrell
there you go.
Yeah.
TA. He is an animal, man.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, go ahead. Finish your thought, Dame. No, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. I don't remember what I was going to say. You're good. You did finish my thought.
I was gonna just remind everyone that early in the season, Tremaine was playing with a shoulder injury as well, and there's a mental hurdle I believe that needs to be cleared in that regard as well. When you're the guy that's making the most tackles on the team, just by the nature of the position you're in, and we want Tremaine Edmunds to be instinctual and to be very quick with his reaction time. And I think when you're, for a guy who was never injured ever in his playing time, like dating back to high school, from what I could tell, like he was never injured in college. He never went through any kind of major injuries. That shoulder is in there on almost every play when you're trying to make a tackle, right? So there's a mental hurdle that had to be cleared early in the season, on top of the fact that, like you said, Milano wasn't there for a bit. You could clearly tell, at least in my mind, by watching the games as they progressed towards the end of the season, that he got a little juice back as he started to trust that shoulder more and more. So I think that's like, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I don't think we can just dismiss that for a linebacker, right? Like, it's different, and maybe if it was a different position, but like obviously the shoulder is important to every position in football. But for a guy that is making probably running backs and linebackers who are getting hit more or hitting more than any other position on the field, like that is he says shoulder, no, like, but look, you can't deny that his play got better over the course of the season as that shoulder got healthier.
I mean, what did they want at linebacker? What are you looking for?
Who are you going to put in his place? Who are you going to put in his place?
Are we going to call him out of retirement because he's a Carolina Panther? I mean, at this point, name 5 linebackers, Mike linebackers, better than him.
I can only think of Fred Warner. So,
you know what? I'll give you a cool example here. Just something that they can hang their hat on. I'm real close with a bunch of Ravens. Okay, and if you notice, like during COVID, I was breaking a lot of Ravens news. All right, so I'll just say I got a lot of people on the Ravens that I deal with. Okay, The Ravens' game plan against Buffalo Bills is try to get Tremaine Edmunds out of the play. Try to get him by running motions, trying to move him out of position. Their entire game plan was to get rid of Tremaine Edmunds. Mm-hmm. And you don't want him on your football team. The entire offense of the Baltimore Ravens is, we need to get rid of your Mike linebacker that you don't want.
Yep.
Look at the game. Watch how many motions they're doing. They're trying to do trick crap because they're trying to they knew that he was spying Lamar Jackson the entire game. Get him out of the play so Lamar can go the other way. That's what their entire game plan was. Did it work?
No.
Let's cut him.
We got Rashid Turner coming in here saying number 49 is not a special stop it. I will say, Rashid, patience, man. Like, I think patience is what I'm going to get. Like, wait till Star Lodolele comes back. Wait till we now have a guy like Greg Rousseau with that length to get his hands up. Like, let's be a little bit patient. Last year was difficult for a lot of teams. Harrison Phillips mentioned that in that clip that we showed. The quarterbacks could do whatever the fuck they wanted. Like, literally, the quarterbacks could call whatever audible they wanted. They could hear what the defense was calling. Then they could adjust, and the receivers could hear everything. It was picture perfect for the offense. The conversation to be had probably as we progress into the offseason is, what does that mean for Josh Allen and the Bills offense? But for right now, to me, it means that the defense is going to be better, because even if the Bills are away, it's still louder when there's 75,000 people sipping on their Pepsis and their beers, watching the home team on offense, it's still louder than when it's a freaking empty stadium. Like, and it's still more difficult to get your audibles out, even when you're the home team. So to me, getting Star back in front of Tremaine Edmunds, Matt Milano's healthy, Tremaine Edmunds is healthy, fans in the stands, the quarterbacks can't just do whatever the hell they want this year. I think there's a whole combination of things where I'm just going to say, like, I literally said this on a show earlier this year. I said, no one talked to me until like the bye week of next season. And I said the middle of last season, I'm like, I just don't want to hear it. I don't care that he's not playing well because when he was hurt, I'm like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. The guy's like 21 years old and is, been to 2 Pro Bowls. Like, I don't care. Talk to me in 4 years. Talk to me after 5 years. When his contract is up, then let's have a conversation. Unless he completely like bottoms out, he's still one of the best 10 inside linebackers in football. Like you said, like name some better. Like someone came in here and they went through and they searched and they named some. And I don't disagree with them when they say Fred Warner, Bobby Wagner, Levante David, Roquan Smith, Devin White, Eric Kendricks. I don't get that. And they even say like Tremaine
Roquan Smith and hold on, Roquan Smith. He's in the same damn boat as Tremaine Edmunds.
Yeah, he is.
And Eric Kendricks is old as hell. All right. Bobby Wagner's a stud. Levante David, I'll give you. Fred Warner, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm not the other 2, scratch them off and keep digging because they're not better than Tremont. Yeah. I'm sorry. They're not. And still, though, you have a top 5 linebacker and you're still complaining? You can only find 5 guys and you're still complaining about number 49. Look, give him some time. Give him some time. That's all I'm going to say. Because I can tell you right now, you have a stud at Mike linebacker and you pay the man. Pay him. I'm pounding the table.
What? And the thing, too, is like my next question to you was going to be like, well, what do you say to the people who say like, he doesn't elevate the talent around him. He needs to be elevated by having a guy like Star, et cetera, et cetera. But I sort of answered my own question in my head because like, I feel like he performed well, like ish, even without those guys in front of him. Correct. Like he still was able to sustain some relative success, even without guys like Star and stuff in the lineup.
I mean, you know what? I go back and I just, for me, maybe I'm just, maybe I'm just too silly or something. I don't know. I go back and think of 20 years of sucking. That's what I think of. 20 years of having the crappiest football that you can watch week in and week out, where at halftime you don't even want to watch it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see it. You can like taste it. Like this is like when I was a little kid, this was like what we tasted every year. This is what you get to taste. And people just, they want to win it all. And they're not looking at like, do you not realize what we just came from? We sucked.
Mm-hmm.
We were the most garbage football team. And now we have like so much talent that we want to get rid of a Pro Bowler and we're upset with a Pro Bowl linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, Rashid's digging in.
We didn't have a damn Pro Bowler.
Rashid's digging in here and says 49 had Star. Remember the Philly game? Remember the Saints game? The dude is average, too tall to cover. Young is an excuse. Does not work for me. Not top 5. Levante David, right? Like very good linebacker in the National Football League. He's been a very good linebacker for a long time. But how many people were calling Levante David an absolute stud until he had Vita Vea, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Ndamukong, Steve McClendon, until he had all those guys in front of him to elevate him. Like Levante David was always a good linebacker, sort of like Tremaine Edmunds has always been a good linebacker. It wasn't until he got those studs in front of him that people were like, whoa, top 2, top 3 linebacker in the game. Like, no offense to Levante David. He was always good, but that conversation did not, in my opinion, start until he had those buys in front of him. Rashid says, what the hell does Pro Bowl mean? This year was different. Because this year hold
on. What does Pro Bowl mean? Ask the Hall of Fame. That's all they take is guys that went to the Pro Bowl. So obviously, if you make Pro Bowls, it doesn't matter. You go to the Hall of Fame. So Pro Bowl do mean something.
We got Mike Lesinski coming in with a super chat. I always appreciate it. Mike, he says, great point, Judge. Do you think Allen could take a step back when stadiums are packed and loud? He had free reign last year. Dave, I'll start with you. Do you think Josh Allen could take a step back this year because he might not have the free reign to call the audibles and stuff like he did at the line of scrimmage?
No, because I think that all of that's going to be offset just with his another year of experience playing, right? I mean, he's now going into his 4th year. I think honestly, maybe that could have been the best thing for him, right? It kind of got him in a situation where maybe he felt like he was almost practicing during the games, and now he can kind of translate that into year 4 and kind of maybe that's one of the areas of his game where, you know, people keep expecting him to take a leap, but maybe that's something we don't necessarily see with our eyes, but that's a leap he's going to make this year where it's, hey, I did all this last year. Now I'm going to do it with fans. I'm comfortable because I did it last year and I did it so well that that's really not going to have a negative effect on me. So while, you know, you may not see anything different on the field, it's actually something different mentally for him, that he's in more control, that experience under his belt from last year. And, you know, each year kind of growing and growing. There's nothing that leads me to believe that Josh Allen would take a step back for any other reason than the fact that he might just, I don't know, run into tough opponents. Like it's not going to be because of him like failing mentally. I'll say like he has shown that he's been able to grow mentally each year in the league and with his decision making and with his abilities. And so the only thing that's really going to stop him is the other team. Honestly, it's not going to be himself.
Rashid comes in and says, Steve Tasker made 7 Pro Bowls. And I will say this, Rashid, Tremaine Edmunds is younger than half the guys we drafted and has already made 2. So my guess is Tremaine Edmunds is probably going to get to 7 by the end of his career.
And I'll bet you Steve Tasker makes the Hall of Fame soon.
Does Matthew, here's a question for you. And I apologize for getting on the rails here. Who makes the Hall of Fame first? Steve Tasker and Matthew Slater. And because I think one will lead to the other. I think once one gets it, the other will get it. Who gets it first, Tasker or Slater?
Tasker
should get it first. I mean,
because he aged out into like the where they can just sort of pick anyone, even if they weren't really all that good.
I think he'll probably end up being like one of those selections where they just you know,
they pick those like old guys.
Man.
Yeah.
But he could be the guy. He could be the guy that kind of sets the precedent, right? Remember when there was like kickers weren't making it, and like the first kicker or punter made it, and it kind of like set the precedent. Then that okay, now we can have punters and kickers make it. Like, if Tasker makes it, it will set the stage for guys like Slater and guys like, you know,
Marcus
Osgood, like not saying easily, but like, you know, not Kareem Osgood's not a Hall of Famer, but like that role he had for the Chargers for years, where he was that ace special teamer, was important for them. And so it's a way of recognizing like an element of the game that is important, that can set a precedent. So
it's not even really I just got to say this. He redefined the game. He is the person that made it. So all these other guys that are getting gunner roles that Matthew Slater is able to even play in the league. If it's not for Steve Tasker, he set the standard on special teams. Mm-hmm. Now all these other players that are getting these huge contracts should be thanking that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
You go and you look, and here's another thing. I'm going to take it right back to the draft, and I'm going to tell you why. You go and you look. The Bills drafted 2 6'7" dudes and a 6'8" and a 6'9" dude, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think, something like that. I think
my
3 6'9", 2 6'8" and 1 6'7", I think is what it was.
Whatever. No,
well,
Spencer Brown 6'9".
What was 6'9"?
Spencer Brown was 6'9".
Spencer Brown 6'9".
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He is 6'9". Okay.
6'9", I think. But okay, so let's just say this. Imagine this, all right? They're all freaks athletically. Put them 3 right over the center on a field goal. Think about this now. If you're a special teams coordinator and you're kicking and you don't realize, I was a kicker. You don't realize how hard you got to hit it to get it up in the air quick.
Hold up.
You were a kicker? 50-yard. Yes, I was a kicker.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you can ask my cousin Ryan. I was a kicker. All right. So here's the thing. I know I'm big as hell, right? Big kicker. I wasn't like Janikowski. I was really skinny when I was in high school. But make a long story short, imagine these 3 brute dudes standing in the middle, and they get a little bit of pushback, and they all just stand up with their hands up. They're blocking the kick. So one of them 3 is blocking the kick this year. Mark it down. I'm calling.
That's crazy. Yeah, Daryl Johnson said, Bobby just said Daryl Johnson told reporters he grew an inch. He's 6'7" now. Imagine if Spencer Brown comes in at 6'10". I don't know. People in the comment section, what's more believable? that Damon used to be a kicker or that Pierre used to be a wide receiver? Which one of these? Which one is more believable? That's my question.
Did you see? Hold on. Did you see Pierre standing next to Josh Allen?
Oh, they were the same size, man.
Dude, listen, Pierre, get him the damn ball. He can be my wide receiver. I'm throwing him the freaking rock. That dude looked like freaking Eric Moulds.
Eric Moulds looked like Chris Gregg. What are you talking about? He was a tight end, man.
Hey, I was trying to say that he was swole, but then you had to go and give him the skinny guy. Good going.
He's tight end swole. He's not wide receiver swole.
but I think Gregg was smaller than Moulds though. So
he looks I don't know. He looks like he's probably getting a little stiff.
Maybe he can be Duke Williams, since everyone thinks he can convert to tight end now, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. Let's transition now to these athletic freak boys that I love to talk about in wrong clip there. In these athletic freak boys that I like to talk about in and I don't even have the video pulled up, but Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle. What are your thoughts on these two guys? Because I think everyone's mind heading into this draft was, we got to get a Mitch Morse replacement or like future replacement, or we got to challenge Cody Ford. We got to challenge John Feliciano. And here Brandon Beane goes and he takes two freak boy, that's what I like to call them, freak boy offensive tackles, both developmental guys. So what are your thoughts on those two positions right there?
I think once again, hey, you know what? When you're looking at the draft and you're looking at like building a team, you have to get end pieces. You have to have two guys that can come in. We've had injuries on our offensive line quite a bit over years. And when you get caught in a predicament, you get an injury and you got to have a guy come in right away to play. We've had so many switches over the past 3 years where Ryan Bates has come in and played. Feliciano hasn't played center. A bunch of different people had to move around on the offensive line. Ike Bodiger, or whatever his name is, had to come in and play. I mean, you're constantly moving pieces around. By getting two ends, big like O tackles, by getting two end pieces that are huge like that, they're your swaps. What if something happens, like the first play of the game or something like that? God willing, what happens if a Dawkins or somebody goes down? And now you need a left tackle. And now you got to take Darrell Williams because he's played, and you got to move him over to left. Now who's going to be your right tackle? You got to have somebody. Are we going to rely on Ryan Bates again? We don't know. Listen, I can tell you this. Spencer Brown is a mauler, okay? Mauler. And when I say he's a freak, I'm the one that posted the video of him benching 500 pounds, all right? That kid's benching 500 freaking pounds. It's 6'9". His arms are 80 freaking some inches, or 80 some. His wingspan was 80. His arms are like 34, 35. I don't have the exact numbers on. They're huge. Do you know how hard it is to bench 500 pounds and extend it for 30 freaking inches? You're an animal. Yeah. You are an animal, period. I'm sorry. That dude's a freak. And that weight room at UNI is nasty. If the Northern Iowa football players in that team, Jared Brinkman, these dudes, they're benching 550 and they got chains on their necks. They're gangsters, man. That's like cornbread, man. They can get fed that. Whew. I don't know what they do. He probably bales hay and just picks it up on his back and walks with it.
That was one of my favorite stories on draft day. Was Spencer Brown was like, yeah, I celebrate my family, my friends. I walked outside and my entire hometown was out my front lawn there to congratulate me. And somebody commented back like all 20 people.
For real. I mean, yeah. I mean, you seen where he lived. It was like maybe 30. But deep down inside, like he's a guy that you can develop. Mm-hmm. Tommy Doyle, on the other hand, Bobby Johnson's had a great idea on him for months. Months. Bobby Johnson, that's his backyard. Miami, Ohio. I think he played there or coached there back in the day, but that's his stomping grounds. So to have a guy that I'm guaranteeing you, he's been seeing everything on this guy. He's probably just liking his tenacity. He's an athletic kid. He's blocking. I mean, look at what he did against the MAC. He shut the Bulls down. So deep down inside, great pick. Look at him.
Oh, I'm gonna play the.
Look at him.
It's a combo with
Spencer Brown.
Spencer Brown here, and Tommy Doyle clips are going to come in as well.
Look at him, though. Look at him. Just look at him.
Pancaking people. Absolutely. And then here's Tommy Doyle here.
There we go. Look at him.
With Malcolm Kuntz trying to get around the edge. Can't do it.
Yeah.
He's coming inside. He's sealing off there for the running back. I mean,
yeah, I love it.
These guys.
And that's a draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him. You ain't moved. Get out of here.
And that's my next question to you is everyone wants to call these guys projects, but I mentioned this earlier in the show. I think by like halfway through the season, you could have these guys ready to go. Cause my thought process is, where are these guys drafted if Nick Saban knew who they were during the recruiting process? If they had an Alabama sticker on their helmet and played in the SEC with their athleticism for 4 years, where would they have been drafted? They would have been drafted 17, where Alex Leatherwood, your boy Alex Leatherwood was drafted. That's where they would have been drafted. These guys would have been bona fide first-round picks if anyone in the SEC had realized they existed. So I think the Buffalo Bills got some absolute steals here in the middle rounds.
Listen, like I said, you know what? People are going to hate on it because they went back-to-back on two different positions that really people didn't think that they need. But you're not looking at – we're not seeing what they're seeing. They might be looking at financials. They may be looking at this. Maybe there's an injury problem with somebody.
Yeah.
That we don't see. Maybe there's a lower back injury. Maybe there's a surgery that has to happen to somebody, and they're not going to have that player. We don't get to see what they see. They have everything in front of them. And at the end of the day, we have to trust the people who got us to the freaking playoffs deep. We have to trust them. Our talent evaluators are some of the best. You have to trust them. Brandon Beane knows what he's doing. If he wants, listen, after picking Josh Allen over Josh Rosen, I lost my shit, okay? I was upset. I almost cried. I said, you got the wrong Josh. I didn't understand it. Right now, listen, if he wants to pick Hillbilly Jim to play guard, I'm on board. And I'm pounding the table for Hillbilly Jim to play guard with his cowboy hat.
Sorry, Dave, you can go.
Well, I was going to say that the injury thing is kind of what we talked about during the live show, you know, because Pierre and I were like trying to sort of figure out like, well, what is the sense in drafting two tackles back to back, right? When you just signed Darrell Williams, but the thought started creeping in my mind. Well, like, what if something happens to Dion Dawkins? Like, I don't think Darrell Williams is playing left tackle. He's you know, he showed well last year as a right tackle, and that was like 1 year, and he obviously earned the new contract he got, but what happens if something happens to Dion Dawkins? Like Ryan Bates as my left tackle is not exactly what I'm hoping for. Meanwhile, you then also have a swing tackle potentially there with Doyle, right? So, or with Brown. So Brown could come in, be your swing tackle. We know he was a stud on the right side. If need be, he's athletic enough clearly to play on the left side. But if something happens to Dawkins, Doyle obviously played left tackle. You could probably put him in there and compete with Ryan Bates. And then all of a sudden, Spencer Brown, maybe he's your swing tackle, or maybe it's the other way around. It gives you options now at that position where for a couple years now, we've been saying how, where's the swing tackle on this team? Like they tried it with Adrian Waddle, right? And didn't work out. They had Tyne Secchi, who we just kind of took for granted because he really never had to play that much, although he did in spots when Cody Ford struggled. So look, it matters. And at the end of the day, all of this is about protecting Josh Allen. So if Brandon Beane wants to go out and get a tackle who might not start from day one, but is insurance enough to protect his franchise quarterback, then I'll get behind it.
Yeah.
And the franchise quarterback that's going to probably be the third highest quarterback paid in the National Football League within the next couple months. Yeah,
exactly.
It's going to happen. He's going to be making more than Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to be right up there. He's going to be in the top three. So you better protect your investment.
We have a huge backlog of super chats, and we're going to get to each of these one by one, starting with Dylan. But before we do, so I do apologize. Before we do, Pierre did have a comment that he put on Twitter that was kind of a lightning round comment, and I want your take on this, Damon. Pierre thinks that Spencer Brown is going to start at some point this season and that Darrell Williams will kick into right guard or play left guard. I think he said the offensive line was going to be left to right. Dion Dawkins, John Feliciano, Mitch Morse, Darrell Williams, and Spencer Brown. He thinks that that's how the Buffalo Bills offensive line is going to finish the season. Is Pierre smoking something, or is he on to something?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of wrong. I don't think he'll, if he starts, it's because there's an injury. I don't think it's he beat somebody out right off the bat. I mean, don't get me wrong. He is I would say he's a developmental player. I love Spencer Brown, but I think, you know, I am a homer because he's a small school kid, but I think that he does still need to develop. The speed of the NFL and the FCS is two different things. And if you go back and you look, NDSU, like North Dakota State, some of the premier pass rushers, face that premier pass rushers. There's been some decent players. Ellerson Smith is one, you know what I mean? But that's his own teammate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, what premier pass rusher from their conference has really come out to be like some superstar? So, overall, I think that, you know, it'll take some time to adjust to. But athletic-wise, you can mold him into what you want. And he has the anger and he can be pissed off to drive his guy, as you've seen several yards down the field and jump on him. And I think that's what you're looking for in that. Both of them guys are nasty football players. So overall, I think that's what. I don't know. Pierre's crazy. Yeah, he's sorry. Sorry, Pierre.
Let's get to a couple of these super chats here. We got Dylan coming in saying Quintin Morris plus Dawson Knox equals a decent tight end duo, in my opinion. Quintin Morris is a weird one. So every scouting report I read says he struggles as a blocker, and he's more of like a guy you can use in like third down situations as a slot receiver, et cetera, et cetera. Like, what are your thoughts on Quintin Morris? What does he got to do to make this roster? Does it have to be beat up Jacob Hollister? Because from his scouting reports, he doesn't read like a TE3 to me. He's got to be a TE1 or a TE2 if he wants to make the roster.
Yeah, I love QMO, man. He's a great guy, dude. And he's a great football player. I think he'll be a practice squad type of guy. I mean, to be honest with you, he's fighting with Reggie Gillum for a spot. And you know, I know you got to just think of downfield blocking. Somebody needs to do it. You're losing Lee Smith. Somebody's going to have to block. And I don't know, Tommy Sweeney coming back, he might never even play. I mean, he might have a hard battle to try to get on the roster to try to make it. So I know I really think that was a need, and I think that the Bills should have drafted a tight end.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, there's probably a lot of fans out there that agree with me.
There was a report today that came out that said they were interested in Luke Farrell in the 5th round, but he got drafted before their pick. So there was something to be said about that.
They've met with Jesse James as well. So Jesse James, the Bills have been in contact with Jesse James. He's another veteran the Buffalo Bills could add to the room. They could probably sign him before training camp to a minimal deal. So Bills are definitely in on some tight ends. Andrew Miller comes in. Coming at you a little bit, he says, Roquan beats Tremaine Edmunds in every statistical category, even beats him in missed tackle percentage. Take the Homer goggles off. What do you got to say to that, Damon?
I mean, I'm glad he donated $4.99. That's what I mean, that's I mean, hey, look, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Roquan's good, but he's not better than Tremaine. We'll see this year. Get ready.
I think it's the physical attributes that draws me more to Tremaine than it does Roquan. Like I like Roquan, but I also think that Roquan would be better if he was an off the ball weak side linebacker than he was a middle linebacker, because he is a little bit on the smaller side compared to a guy like Tremaine. We got Ombre Lob coming in and says Jack Anderson will start this year on the line this year. He was my favorite pick in this draft. I think he might be one of the better players with a chance to start. And second of all, I'm just going to play a video real quick and tell me you don't just love this guy based off this 3 seconds of just heartwarming film right here. How do you not love a guy who just look? I'm going to play it again. It's little Richie Jr. over here. It's just like if Richie Incognito birthed an adult male. That is Jack Anderson. So to me, like, he's got left guard, right guard, center, flex. The Bills met with him in the Senior Bowl. They really seem to dig him. You know, he obviously pass blocked a lot coming from Texas Tech, but they also say that he's pretty good, decent in the run game. Forrest Lamp, Cody Ford, John Feliciano, Ike Butker. If there's any position on this football team where one of these later round rookies can earn a starting job, that's it, because those are all 4 of those guys I just named. I like all of their potential, but they can all be beaten out for a starting job if a player comes in like a rookie and just straight up whoops their ass and plays so much better than them in preseason, in training camp. And if Jack Anderson does that, I don't think the Buffalo Bills will be afraid to throw Jack Anderson on the football field.
Well, I think Cody Ford better put his helmet on and strap up, because I'll tell you what, someone's coming to take his spot, and I'll bet you Jack Anderson will fight tooth and nail to try to get that spot. I mean, Cody Ford was a high pick, but he's been rough. I mean, to be honest with you, he's rough. Forrest Lamp grades out really well too. I mean, that's going to be a tough spot. So obviously the Bills are not happy with their guard play. I think Feliciano, I mean, they waited really long to sign him even. So it's kind of like, are they really ecstatic about Feliciano? I know he's a Bobby Johnson guy. But you look at Jack Anderson. Jack Anderson's nasty too. He plays mean. And that's what I'm saying. Look at the offensive linemen that they signed. They're mean. Like when they block you, they try to kill you. That's what I like in offensive linemen. If I'm grading an offensive lineman, to me, I'm looking for a Richie Incognito. I'm looking. If you watch Quinn Miners' film, Quinn Miners is trying to kill you when he's blocking you. That's why he's my favorite offensive lineman in this draft. I want somebody that's going to try to take you and drill you 30 yards down the field and then finish you off and then jump on you and lay on you. That's the type of offensive lineman I want. And Jack Anderson's the same type of player. Cody Ford, I don't think he has that. I don't think he has that FU that you're looking for in an offensive lineman. And if he does, he better show it soon, because I'm telling you, they're obviously looking for that.
And it's funny because that was one of the things that people, like, or at least that was the association that people gave to Cody Ford when he came out, was that he did have that, but we didn't really see it on the field. And also, Feliciano, I know we're kind of penciling him in. I'm sure that some of that has to do with the fact that he's kind of the de facto backup center right now. I would be surprised if Feliciano wasn't starting, but I could also see a situation where if they valued him enough as the backup center to not have him starting, and there wasn't another good backup center on the team, that maybe someone else could beat him out. But again, the money they're paying him, it would indicate to me that he's probably starting. The thing that's going to be fascinating to me is seeing this Ford, Lamp, and Jack Anderson kind of competition, and Bucker, obviously, and Bucker too. But the attitude, like Dane was saying, like that, especially for your guards, right? I feel like for the guards, it's like that's like a trait you gotta have. Like you gotta be wanting to get your face up like into the linemen and the linebackers. And so I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Forrest Lamp was the starting left guard on opening day. Like I would agree. Like right now on May 3rd, like I'll say that I wouldn't be surprised. That we'll see how training camp goes, but like I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I think your offensive line's Lamp on one side, Felicia on the other, Morse, and then your two tackles, Dion and Darryl. That's going to be your starting offensive line. I would be shocked if it's any other way, in my opinion.
Speaking of offensive line, we got Dan Van Kuenberg coming in saying, remember the Super Bowl when the Chiefs scored 9 points? Their starting tackles were out. I agree. That's why I think it's the length thing. Guys like Obata, guys like Rousseau. It's about getting that hand up, getting your hands in the passing lane. John DeMarshi made a great comment earlier about how Tom Brady struggled with he called guys like Michael Strahan and Justin Tuck and UC Umenyoria. He called them a forest. So even if it's not about getting sacks, it's about getting hand in the passing lanes and really combating and helping your secondary that way. And then we have Leo Ox coming in. Don't worry, Leo, we didn't forget you. He says, we still got Cole Beasley. We do still have Cole Beasley. And you know what else we got? We have another receiver in the 5th round by the name of Marquez Stevenson. So I'm going to play a couple of clips here of Marquez. That's the wrong.
Man, he got big. I was going to say.
Yeah.
He grew.
I struggle labeling my clips today, so we do not have a clip of Marquez Stevenson. But I will put a clip of Marquez Stevenson. But while I put a clip of Marquez Stevenson up, talk about what the Buffalo Bills are getting in Marquez Stevenson. Is this strictly Isaiah McKenzie 1v1, or is there a chance both these guys can make the roster?
Yeah, I think this is a competition for that role for sure. I think that there's going to be, he has the return ability. He can return the ball, as well as the speed. I mean, he's fast. Not the biggest guy, but he's a touchdown maker. Since high school, I watched this kid in high school. He tore it up. I mean, he was crushing people. He's from Shreveport, Louisiana, and I actually lived in Louisiana for some time. And the kid was talented back then. He kept it going at Houston, and I think at the end of the day, he has a lot of speed. He can separate. They can use him in a lot of different scheme packages, like they do Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie's not here forever, and I know that everyone loves him. But if he scored 8 touchdowns, for a guy that, many people, I'm not trying to write him off. I love him as a human being. I think he's one of the greatest people in the world. but we're looking long term here. We have to look long term. Who is our replacement in these type of plays? We don't have one on a roster right now. So, and you got to remember the fact that we lost Andre Roberts is that hurts. So you got to have somebody that can return. And I think that, there's a competition. It's healthy. You need that. And I think that's where I think he'll bring competition. But yeah, Isaiah McKenzie is definitely another one that's going to have to step up. There's going to be a lot of Bills that get cut this year that's going to make fans mad. Because there's a lot of depth.
And that's another point too. Like people are talking about, like towards the end of training camp, the Buffalo Bills could be trading guys. Like F.A. Obata could be on the trading block. One of these interior offensive linemen could be on the trading block. Bobby Hart could be on the trading block. Like there's tons of players like Levi Wallace, if he loses out, could be on the trading block. The Buffalo Bills could use some of these guys. Like we've traded Russell Bodine in the past. We traded Marshall Newhouse in the past. We've traded Lee Smith, who I'm pretty sure, even though he's still playing, has retired. We got a 7th round pick for that guy. So all these guys could be trade bait, but I finally got a picture of Marquez Stevenson up. Somebody in the comment section said that Brandon Beane said in his press conference, Marquez Stevenson is only a kick returner. That's not what he said. He said that he can be competition for returning kicks. Because if you watch this guy play football, he is
not only a kick returner. Yeah, look at him.
He was the fastest. He clocked the fastest play in miles per hour of any player in college football last year. There was one play in college football last year. I don't know the exact mile per hour, but he was legitimately the fastest player in college football last year. He's a guy who can catch the ball and he can get yards after the catch with that speed. And this first play that I'm showing here shows you that speed, that yards after catch. But watch this second play. Like watch the separation and then watch in the second play his ability to know exactly where the defenders are and his situational awareness here on this football play on his wheel route. So he catches the wheel route here and then watch the situational awareness to cut back up field and get through all of these defenders with that speed and get to the end zone. Marquez Stevenson is legitimately a guy who can be groomed. Someone mentioned Cole Beasley. He can legitimately be groomed to be a slot type of player on this football team when Cole Beasley does decide to hang it up, because he's got guys like Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, and Cole Beasley here to show him the ropes. And when you have that raw freak speed that a guy like Marquez Stevenson has, and I believe he's now 2 years removed from that ACL surgery, look out. Like he's a guy who can make a real impact right away, even if he's only playing a small percentage of the snaps.
This is not your Cole Beasley replacement. I didn't mean to cut you off, Tilt. This is your John Brown replacement.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I did like a lot of scouting early on in like the months. He was one of the first guys I looked at back in February. So it was like kind of like left my mind when it came to draft day. But then when his name came up, I was super excited because, I mean, to me, he has more receiving potential than Isaiah McKenzie, and he can do all the things that Isaiah McKenzie can already do, and he's faster. Like Isaiah McKenzie's been in this receiving room for a couple years now too, but he hasn't been able to be like a slot guy or really an outside receiver at all. He's been more of a gadget player and spot duty returner. I mean, Stevenson, I said it the other day, he's 26.1 career kick return average, 3 kick return touchdowns in his career. And you said it, Steve, like the fastest play in college football last year. So the potential, I think, in the ceiling for him is actually higher than Isaiah McKenzie in my mind. And it'll be fun to see this competition because McKenzie is a fan favorite, but we have to remember we only signed him to like a 1 year, $1 million deal or whatever it was. So it's not like he's a lock to make the roster. That bottom of the receiver depth chart competition is going to be fascinating this year, especially because you don't have the Andre Roberts there that's taking up one of your receiver roster spots as a pure, really, we'll say as a pure kick returner. It's really going to be guys with the kick returning ability that kind of have an edge here, and then what happens with Isaiah Hodgins. So it wouldn't surprise me if only 2 out of the 3 of those guys made the team, and I could see McKenzie potentially being the odd man out, given that Hodgins brings something a little bit different size-wise than either of those two. So should be interesting.
Little dirty, like he's a guy who gets fueled by this kind of stuff. He was
which
already
is good for him.
He was already tweeting about how he's looking forward to this competition and whatnot. Rasheed Turner, man, he is nothing if not persistent. Comes in and says, I don't know if I clicked on this or not. There we go. Tired of hearing the size argument. I would take London Fletcher over number 49. He's young, so what? He made the Pro Bowl popularity contest. I want a ring. Listen.
Yeah, but what? Let me just respond with this.
I love Rasheed.
How many? He's a Jerry Hughes hater too, by the way.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Rasheed always brings it. I will give him credit. He does not back down. How many playoff games did we win with London Fletcher as our middle linebacker? 0. Like, I mean, I loved London Fletcher too. He never made a Pro Bowl, although he should have with the Bills. I don't believe he made one until he went to Washington, and we never even made the playoffs with him as our middle linebacker, even when we had him and Takeo on the same team. So I love London Fletcher. He's always been one of my favorite Bills ever, but to say that you would take London Fletcher over 49, but then you say you want a ring, it doesn't really equate to me because we never even made the playoffs with London Fletcher as our middle linebacker. So I know it's not all on him. I know we had the quarterback issues during that time, so I'm not trying to say that. But man, Tremaine Edmunds athletically is like way above what London Fletcher was athletically.
Listen, here's what I'm going to say. We got almost 360 people in here. If you think that Tremaine Edmunds is the future of the Buffalo Bills at middle linebacker, I want you to smash that like.
Yeah.
Also, if you think that Tremaine Edmunds is not the future at inside linebacker for the Buffalo Bills, I want you to smash that like.
You're such a whore for likes.
Let's see how many likes we can get. Let's see how many likes we can get.
You should make them all comment too.
Yeah. Comment, like, subscribe.
Comment. You know what I mean? We'll look at them. But we need likes and comments.
Yeah. It's. You see, like the issue I have with the platform we're using right now is I'm not a big fan of this 3-man layout. I don't like it. There's not a lot of room to fit graphics, and usually we start the show with like a like, subscribe, share. We usually start off with a nice little promo like that to try to get people roped in to help us a little bit, expand our audience, and we can't fit the like, subscribe, share in with the 3-man layout. So. Like, subscribe, share. I know it's coming an hour and 7 minutes in, but I really do appreciate if you would do that for us. I
like the strategy though of doing it when there's more people.
100.
Dame, during the live coverage, I ended up giving away like 3 things of 3 pieces of gear because I kept saying, "Oh, if we get to 600, I'll buy something," and then we kept hitting the numbers. So I'm not going to say that tonight, but I will say tonight if we got to 500, I might give away something. I know that's a tall order. So.
We get. I mean, we're winding down here. We got these last couple of picks because we've already talked about Jack Anderson and we've got UDFAs. But the next group up here is Damar Hamlin and Rachad Wildgoose, who I like these guys in the secondary. Damar Hamlin, like we've been talking. This has been Dave. This guy has been your favorite since February. I mean, you legitimately in February said this guy is the Dane Jackson of this year's draft class, a late round pick who's going to come in and contribute. We've been calling him the Dean Marlowe of this secondary. Like he can come in, he can plug and play, be a dime defender, a split safety. So Damar Hamlin is, in my opinion, unless he comes out here and absolutely embarrass himself, he is making this roster. I think he was the number 5 ranked or 7th ranked safety for SIS. So the Buffalo Bills got an absolute steal according to SIS in the 6th round of the draft. And then you see Rachad Wildgoose here, who he's a guy who didn't play a lot in college. You know, the COVID situation, all those different things. He's a rather young guy. And like all of those physical tools are there for Rachad Wildgoose to be a really good football player. He just hasn't been able to put it all together because he just hasn't been able to get it on the football field. Inside, outside flex, physical, aggressive, played under Jim Leonard. This is a guy who he might have to practice squad this year, but he's got all the physical attributes you need to eventually be a guy in this secondary. So, Damon, I'll start with you. Did the Buffalo Bills adequately replace Dean Marlowe with Damar Hamlin? And where do you project Wildgoose, the best name on the Bills now, especially now that he's wearing number 32, the goose is loose. Where do you project him on this Buffalo Bills roster?
I didn't know he was wearing 32. That was really good.
Yeah.
I will say this. All right. Once again, the Bills went with extremely freaking aggressive football players. Why are they trying to get this like bully football players? That's what they're getting. Damar Hamlin's a mean, strong in the run game, come up and punch you in the mouth type player, can still cover and do good in secondary play, but he's more of a run stuffer. He's more of a guy that'll come up in the box and nail you. And I think that's what they get in him. I can tell you right now, Wildgoose, if you put him on the practice squad, like you said, he's gone. Someone's going to get him. I'm telling they're building an identity. You're damn right. The identity is a damn bully They're coming. They're going to punch you in the mouth. They want what Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, where they were punching that team in the mouth. That's what we need on our defense. You can't just sit there and say that. You have to be able to get after the ball. Rachad Wildgoose is going to end up having 4 or 5 penalties because he's so damn aggressive. He's almost too aggressive. And that's like what, if you come off, you think about this, you come off the line, Wildgoose the type of dude, he's trying to put you into next Tuesday when you come off the line on 5 yards. He might get beat doing it, but he's going to try to make sure you know that the Wildgoose is in front of you. And he's extremely aggressive. And I'm telling you, he may be too aggressive, where we'll be like, oh, man, come on, Wildgoose. We'll probably be like that a couple times. Because he'll probably be like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? Wildgoose going to do that.
Is he – oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is he –
But I will say this, though. Replacing Dean Marlowe. Dean Marlowe's my boy.
Yeah.
Dean is like – that's my guy. I freaking love Dean Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
But when Dean Marlowe was in JMU, he was a guy that would come up and take your freaking head off. And, I mean, he was getting kicked out of games for targeting. Dean Marlowe would try to kill you. And I think that's what you're getting in these two type of players. They are, it really is. It's strategic. But I'm telling you, the Bills corners need help. Wildgoose is going to be on this roster, I think. Yeah. I would be shocked if he's not, because he's young and they like him.
My question to you is this dude like a guy, the heir apparent to Taron Johnson, or is he competition for Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace?
Ooh. Well, Taron Johnson's going to get paid, man. And I
don't know if the Bills want to pay him. I don't know.
I don't know if the Bills can pay him. You know what I mean? Once you start throwing money out there to start paying people, Taron Johnson made a name for himself, and he's an aggressive type player too. I don't know how Wildgoose is going to be in the slot per se. Like, I don't know in the NFL. I guess we'll find out. I'll tell you what, I didn't know what Dane Jackson was going to be, and Dane Jackson impressed the hell out of me. So, you know what I mean? I guess I will say this. They love Pitt secondary players. The Bills do. So, and it's worked. So you got to stay with what works. Hamlin was a better player than Paris Ford. And Paris Ford was the one that had all the love. I love Paris Ford. I think he's a great football player. I think he takes better angles. But at the simple time, when you run a horrible 40 time, Hamlin all of a sudden goes ahead. So I think I think it was 2 more aggressive picks, but they're trying to build something that I don't know. I don't really know what they're trying to build, but I know that they're getting some really fierce and mean type players, like kind of punch you in the mouth type of football players. And even it goes into UDFAs. They got the Tariq Thompson kid from SDSU, another one. He too is aggressive. Syrus Tuitele, that kid is mean as hell. So it's like, why are they getting all these mean football players? They're trying to do something. They're like, they love wrestling background guys, and they love these guys. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to send you guys a message. What do you think it is? I don't know. Yeah, they want to fight us.
I want to get back to Thompson in a moment. Before we do, Truth to Heart's coming in saying people don't understand that being a nickel linebacker is harder with a corner at your side. Name a linebacker that dominates as a nickel. I'll wait. So I think what he's trying to say here is that aggressive nickel corners maybe make a linebacker's job easier. I don't know, maybe if I misinterpreted that, but what are your thoughts on this statement here from Truth to Hearts?
Yeah, well, I think what he's trying to say is having an aggressive nickel there. Obviously, listen, at the end of the day, let me see here. Let me read this again. He says it's harder with a corner at your side. Name a linebacker. Yeah, I mean, it is harder to play linebacker when you're in the nickel formation. So I guess there's not a lot of room to roam, is I guess what he's trying to say in that. But because we're playing nickel so much, for the Bills, we have a lot more secondary than we do linebackers, and you know what I'm saying? So we're playing 5. Most of the time we're playing in a dime, we're playing in different things where these guys are roaming. Where at one point we only had 2 linebackers on the field for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
It was even when Milano went down, we went to just 2 linebacker set for quite some time. So when you're playing with 5, it's hard to get production out of being a linebacker. So with that being said, I get what he's saying. If you got nickels that are flying around, they're supposed to be picking up things. Now you're kind of playing in the zone in a way. Yeah. So at that point, what do? I mean, it is harder to perform at a high level. So yeah, if you're just playing in a 4-3 front and you're able to do what you want to do, you're going to be a lot better than if you have a nickel playing and you're only playing in 2 corner in a 2 linebacker set.
We got Rashid Turner coming in with another super chat. He says, number 24 is a dog, tons of heart, pay him. I'll say this. I like Taron Johnson. I was a little down on Taron Johnson earlier in the season, but I've liked Taron Johnson since the day he drafted him. But here's what I'm going to say about Sean McDermott. Brandon Beane has shown that he trusts his coaches. He drafts a ton of high ceiling players and he trusts his coaches to coach him. I think Sean McDermott in his heart of hearts, unless it's an absolute alpha dog player like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White, unless it's a guy in that like stratosphere, I don't think Sean McDermott's going to want to pay him. I think Sean McDermott's going to think he can take a Rachad Wildgoose and turn him into what Taron Johnson is. Sean McDermott is probably convinced that he could take a Cam Lewis and turn him into what Taron Johnson is. He's probably convinced that, hey, if Levi Wallace wins the outside job, I can kick Dane Jackson inside and turn him into what Taron Johnson is. So as much as I agree with you, Rashid, that Taron Johnson is a dog and like he's an absolute player, like you want to pay that man. I remember I went back and I rewatched that Harrison Phillips interview today, trying to find that clip. And one of the things that Harrison Phillips said was, like, I live in the gym and me and Matt Milano live in the gym. And Taron Johnson, when he got the pick 6 against Baltimore, he's another guy, like, I couldn't be happier for that dude because he fucking grinds and he fucking stays behind the scenes and he just does his job. And that's what Harrison Phillips is. And that's what Matt Milano is. So they have so much respect for a guy like Taron Johnson. So don't get me wrong. I'm with you, Rashid. I just don't know if Sean McDermott is with you. What do you think about that, Damon?
I think you have to look at how much money slot nickels are making.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to figure out, is it worth it? And that's a decision. That's a financial decision. Depends how much you're paying Josh Allen. Depends how much you're giving out Tremaine Edmunds. If you're in a situation like we were this year, guys are only going to take cuts for so long. Guys are only going to do what they did this year. Is like, I'll take a pay cut to come back. Matt Milano should have made a lot more money and would have made a lot more money. If you're going to take a pay cut, it's not even. Listen, he was willing to take a pay cut to stay here.
Yeah.
Why? Listen, it's the culture. They embracing it. If the Bills come out and don't win the Super Bowl next year, you think they're gonna take pay cuts again? They're not. They're not. They think they're on that brink right now, so they're willing to take that pay cut. And I can't blame if Taron Johnson thinks he's going to get paid, go and get paid. That's what the industry is about. Listen, and I'll say this: we as fans, we don't understand it, but players do understand it. You know what I mean? Look at Dean Marlowe. He left. He left in free agency. Did the Bills have the exact same offer as the Lions? More than likely they did. But when you're sitting behind 2 guys and you know your opportunity to play there is very slim, and you look at the Lions and go, maybe I can break that roster, it's worth it to me. You got to think about yourself eventually as a football player because you're not in the league forever. And the team will keep you sitting on a bench someplace, stash you in a way, and never letting you get a stack. If you sit on a bench and you don't do anything, and then you try to go on free agency, who the hell's going to sign you? Nobody. Dean's coming off of his best year. He had a couple picks. You know what I'm saying? He had to test the water. Detroit gave him a deal late. But if you feel deep down inside, I can come in here and compete and potentially get on the field more than I was in Buffalo, you got to leave. So I think we look at the players' aspect as different. Like, they should take a pay cut. That's cool. Take a pay cut at your job.
Yeah, I like
Are you
that.
gonna? Are you gonna take?
Hell no.
You taking a pay cut? Like, come on, man. Be a team player, bro. Listen, listen. We're gonna sell the most cars next year. Take a pay cut. Only take a little less. Come on, building a culture around here. You gonna keep taking pay cuts? If you ain't winning, like if you end up selling 20 cars and you're not the best car salesman, how long are you gonna keep taking pay cuts until your team can win? One time.
Yep. Yep. One time. I agree with that.
One time.
Yeah. I like this. Truth to Hearts comes in and says he was saying that nickel makes linebackers look bad. So if you got a nickel that maybe isn't aggressive or whatever, can't cover, it's going to make that linebacker look bad. So we're actually going to bring for the last segment here, we're going to bring producer Kendall in because, you know, this is his This is his bag here. He likes to talk about UDFAs, and we're going to talk about UDFAs a little bit. So this is your jam. And my last question to you. So prepare this in your mind palace here, Damon. My last question to you is going to be, who are some small schoolers still out there? Because the Bills got some roster spots. Who should Brandon Beane still be targeting? But let's start with the guys that they have reportedly signed. Olaijah Griffin, son of Warren G. I think this is a guy who could pull a Levi Wallace. Like Ryan Sullivan, who was in the comment section earlier, he was posting the RAS scores of Levi Wallace, Olaijah Griffin, and Dane Jackson. And fuck, they are so similar. Like it is just like a 4.0, like below par athlete, but a really great instinctual boundary player. Talk about Olaijah Griffin a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, overall, listen, when we're talking about Warren G, period, Warren G was my guy growing up. It was the hottest song ever, right? I mean, everybody was jamming to that. But look, he's another football player that comes in. I personally had him, I think, 250 something on the big board. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I had him as a draft pick. I know it was late, but we try to make the big board, pleasant, so everyone can get their guy if they're looking for him. But when you're looking at him overall, listen, USC probably he was probably one of their best defenders. I mean, in defensive backs. I mean, straight up. I mean, I know they had Tuitele and Marlin up front. I'm not even trying to say his name. But once again, the inside pass rush helped the outside corners. The outside corners played well. Listen, I'm surprised he didn't get drafted. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what his if his RAS score was at a 4, he probably didn't perform very well at his pro day. Mm-hmm. If you look at his 40, he probably wasn't the fastest guy, which probably dropped him. But athletic wise, when you watch him on film and you break him down, he can play. He can play the outside. He can play the inside. He's a tough player altogether. So I think overall, you're getting a great football player for free, basically, because you're not doing anything. I'll give you an example. Right now, the Patriots are looking for people, and the pot is so thin that they can't find anybody. Have you noticed that the UDF signings, if you look at the UDFAs and you start looking at them, they have signed none because there's nobody out there. The Falcons went and signed every damn body. They signed like 40 people, right?
They signed my guy Javian Hawkins, wasn't it?
Antonio Nunn, Javian Hawkins. Dude, they got Caleb Huntley. Caleb Huntley.
But they signed a whole bunch of people, and what happens is these teams are like scrambling. Another thing is NFL teams are waiting because is it 90 or is it 80? As of right today, it's supposed to be 90 men on a roster. Mm-hmm. So how many spots do we technically have open? That's something you got to look at. It's supposed to be 90, but it's not been agreed upon right now. So what a lot of teams are doing is let's just stick at 80 so we don't have to cut a bunch of people. Plus, there's not many players out there. So, to get a guy like Griffin late like this and to get to some of the players that they got late, that was a great job by the Bills front office.
What do you say to Lone Wolf here, who says below average athleticism, Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace, Olaijah Griffin on the boundary isn't going to help you beat Kansas City?
Well, I mean, he does have a point because
my counter argument is it's a UDFA. It's not a guy. I don't think you're expecting Olaijah Griffin to come in and all of a sudden unseat Tre White as your number 1 corner, or even necessarily unseat whoever your number 2 corner is. He's a guy that's going to probably compete to try to be your number 4 or number 5 corner if they keep that many, and could be just for example, Dame said he could play inside and outside. Maybe the Bills say, we want our last corner on the roster to have some position flex and be able to play inside and out. And that's Olaijah Griffin's path to making the team. And he can play special teams as well. So I don't look at every pick or every UDFA as saying oh, is that going to help us beat Kansas City? Because not every player is a star player. Not every player is your starter. You need guys that can fill roles on this team should something happen. I said many times on the show, I like having position flexibility with my depth, not necessarily with my starters, because I would prefer to somebody who's really good at one thing to be starting. But for my depth, I want some flexibility there, because you never know who's going to go down. You never know if multiple things happen. There's so many variables in football that you want to give yourself as many insurance policies as you can. And there's a reason why these guys get drafted later. They're UDFAs. They're not going to be we shouldn't expect Olaijah Griffin to be like the savior CB2. Like that's not my expectation for him. So,
Yeah.
But you got to remember this too, though. With that same thing being said, we're right now expecting an undrafted guy or a late round pick to be our cornerback number 2.
It's true.
So
that is true.
Levi Wallace.
Well, that I have a separate problem with that. I have a separate problem with that.
Right. So, but I'm saying we're sitting there looking like, oh man, you know, we have Tyreek Hill is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
To cover him, that's gotta be Tre. So I mean,
This is a good comment here, and this is where a lot of people's heads were at before the draft. Why not invest I think his point, and this may be true, so I'm sorry if I missed his point. I think his point was why not invest a higher pick on a boundary corner that can impact the team greater. I agree. We all, I shouldn't say we all, but a vast majority of Bills media community wanted a somewhat high draft pick investment in a CB2. I'll say day 1 or day 2. I'm not going to say it had to be the first round. I'll say day 1 or day 2, people, you know, a lot of people wanted that CB2 investment, including myself, right? Including myself. Ife Melifonwu was on the board for us at 93 and we passed on him. He was on the board for us at 61, obviously, and we passed. Like there were guys on the board and like we went a different direction. But like Steve said, and Damon, like you're saying, like this coaching staff seems based on their actions that they're more confident in coaching up defensive backs than they are in any other position on this roster. And so from that standpoint, they're like, that's where our bread and butter is from a coaching standpoint between McDermott and Frazier. So that's where we're going to maybe steer away from putting a high investment because we feel like we can squeeze a little extra value out of guys just based on coaching. So,
well, go and look at the Carolina Panthers when McDermott was there. Did they ever invest in a corner? No, they got
not after a rookie deal. Not after a rookie deal, they didn't.
James, they had that year where they drafted what? James Bradbury. That might have been after McDermott left, though.
And they let him go too.
Dante Jackson.
Yeah, I mean,
well, they never re-signed anyone. I don't think after a rookie, like a big contract after the rookie deal. So you're right about that.
I mean, now they're drafting J.C. Horn to replace Dante Jackson, probably, whose contract's gonna be up soon. Let's transition now. I'm sorry. We still have Truth to Hearts super chat coming in here. He says, everybody keeps talking about Kansas City. Do y'all realize the Bucs secondary isn't that good? How athletic are their corners? They won collectively. I will say that I like the players in Tampa Bay secondary, but I'm with Truth to Hearts in that they weren't exactly high draft picks. There was no Tre White in that secondary. It was all second, third, fourth round picks who were cleaning up because the guys in front of them. And that gets to my point of the guys we drafted earlier. Eric Bunsell says pass rush greater than coverage. There are two ways to think about defense. There are people that think that pass rush is greater than coverage, and there are people that think that coverage is better than pass rush. Clearly, the Buffalo Bills here made the determination that pass rush is going to help the coverage. You can have the unathletic guys if they sit in a zone, the guys in front get their hands up, get in passing lanes, get pressure on the quarterback, and the quarterback throws arid passes that in zone coverage a smart, heady player can pick off. So I think that's probably where the Buffalo Bills are going, in that direction. But let's talk about another guy, and that's Tariq Thompson. Kendall, talk about Tariq a little bit from San Diego State. We were all in on Darren Hall. We wanted Darren Hall. We all said Darren Hall, despite whatever the TDN had to say, that he was going to be a 7th round pick. Darren Hall was going to be an early day 3 pick. Sure enough, he was an early day 3 pick. But we did get his teammate at San Diego State and Tariq Thompson. Talk about Tariq a little bit.
I think Tariq is an interesting eval because he was listed at safety for a lot of these draft websites, and I think he's primarily a nickel corner. At least that's how he played. He plays very instinctually closer to the line of scrimmage, and he fires his gun. He knows how to pull the trigger and just go and trust his eyes. He has very good processing speed, and he trusts those instincts very well. He's very physical, like Taron Johnson. So when I see that we signed Tariq Thompson as a UDFA, I'm thinking, okay, maybe the Bills aren't so, they're thrilled with who Taron Johnson is and how great he's been for them, but they're thinking about the future and the financial impact of the $23 million and the $12 million put together on these 5th-year options that we're going to see in 2022. And when those get on the books in 2022, it's harder to re-sign someone like Taron Johnson, even with the cap going back up. So you have to plan for those kind of things in the future. And Tariq Thompson seems like a hedge on that kind of plan, where it's like, if we have to overpay for Taron to keep him in town, Tariq is someone, a backup plan along with Cam Lewis, a backup plan along with Rachad Wildgoose. So I like it because he's an instinctual and physical player that reminded me a lot of Taron Johnson. So I liked the pickup a lot.
What do you think about Tariq Thompson, Damon?
I agree. Kendall needs to talk more. Damn it, he's good. I was like, he's hired. I'm signing this kid, man. I'm taking him with me. Pierre, you just lost one. But look, I mean, he's right. He's absolutely right. But I think this is more competition for Saron Neal. Because Saron Neal does play nickel and safety and teams. So I don't know how much longer Saron Neal has, but
I think
this is a potential replacement for Saron Neal.
Yeah.
That's what I would assume.
That's a good point.
We can't be breaking my heart. Saron Neal's my boy. We can't be breaking my heart too much. But
sorry, mine too. But I mean, you got his business.
All right, so we're now going to get to Pierre's favorite part of the show because Pierre's been pretty locked in on this kid from San Jose State. So much so that he says he is a lock to make the Buffalo Bills football team. He thinks that this player is going to make the football team, and that is Tre Walker out of San Jose State University. I'm going to play some Tre Walker highlights here as we talk about it. But what are your thoughts, Kendall? We'll start with you because I know you were on the Tre Walker train. Dave was on the Tre Walker train. Talk about a little bit about Tre Walker here, as my screen just absolutely freezes. I probably can't play this.
Well, to me, when I see Tre Walker, I see competitive toughness. I see someone who might not be the best athlete in the world, but he's someone I want on my team because he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. It's kind of the same reason I wanted Olaijah Griffin when I saw him in the UDFA pool. Yeah, he might not be the best athlete in the world, but he's got enough measurables and he's got the chip on his shoulder where it's like, yeah, he's going to trust the process. He's going to buy into the culture. Let's get him in town. Why not? You can never have too many wide receivers on a team that likes to run 11 and 10 personnel a lot. So more the merrier. I hope he can make the roster, but it's going to be a hell of a tough time for him.
Yeah. I mean,
look,
you have some thoughts too as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, these were the notes I had on him and obviously this came to fruition after it happened. I said that he could have been a potential John Brown replacement. He's an outside number 3 receiver. Maybe he could play in the slot. Had 10 career games with at least 100 receiving yards at San Jose State, all Mountain West first team in 2019. Had 189 career receptions and just under 2,800 receiving yards there. The note I had on him is the major factor was going to come down to his 40 time and really just his athletic testing, and he really tested poorly. I think his RAS score was below a 1.0. Mm-hmm. So he was already borderline probably not going to be drafted, and that kind of probably solidified that. But if you watch him play, and if you watch, like you showed the highlights, like he doesn't. I mean, you watch those highlights. He doesn't seem like an under 1.0 athlete to me. Like he doesn't have the best vertical, great, but he will still go up and fight for the ball. He doesn't necessarily have the best in top end speed, but he can still run. Like he's okay, right? And I don't know that he's got a path to make this team. I'm not as optimistic as Pierre, but I do think there's a path for him to make the practice squad if he has a good camp.
Yeah, I agree to that. And the thing is with him is there's in football, when you're breaking down film and you're watching film, you have what they call athletic freaks, and then you have what they call football players.
Mm-hmm.
He's a football player. Yep. He's gonna come in excited to play every week. Mm-hmm. Another football player from out that way was like Demetric Felton. Demetric Felton was not the fastest guy, didn't jump well, didn't do anything. They still got drafted, but his Senior Bowl performance, just his route running, the football things, they do right. And he does football things right. And you can see it on his film. Now, here's the thing. San Jose State threw the ball almost every damn play, too, though. So they threw the ball. That's a heavy throwing offense. Mm-hmm. So he was the recipient of a lot of great catches, but you still have to get open to get the ball.
Yep.
And he's able to get open. He has football sense, and I think coaches love football players. And I think this one, they're looking away from the testing and saying what he can be is what we want. And the great thing is a player like him on the practice squad, no one will really be really tempted because his 40 and his different things to where he's like, he's a great eligible practice squad type of player, if that makes sense.
You know who you guys just described?
Cool.
Like I know Kendall said Robert Woods light, et cetera, et cetera. You know who everyone here has just described to me? Cam Phillips. I get a massive Cam Phillip vibes. From Tre Walker here. But Jeff King, I see your super chat. We're gonna get to your super chat next, I promise. But we got one more UDFA I want to talk about, and that's the guy that Michael Bell Jr. is bringing up here, and that is, I feel like Syrus Tuitele could compete for a guard spot. AJ Epinessa's cousin started 38 games at right tackle for Fresno State. So talk a little bit about Syrus here, Damon.
Oh man, look, man, this is my guy. He got the Bills called him and took him, and he said he hashtagged Bills Mafia, texted to me, and I'm like, for real? Can I break it? He goes, somebody already did. I'm like, damn, for real,
man.
bro?
His own college, his own school.
I'm like, dude, come on, bro. And he was like, man, dude, I can't wait to get up to Buffalo, man. I'm excited. Let me tell you something. That dude is nasty too. Listen, you guys got to go. If you guys have time later on tonight and you guys want to just hear a great story, go to our podcast. We had a podcast with him. Syrus sat down with That Sports Guy podcast. It's on our YouTube. It's That Sports Guy podcast with Syrus. And I think you can find it probably in Google because I put it on our website. That dude is a fun football player. Just like I fell in love with him throughout the process. He did have some medicals, which is, I think that's what the problem was. So with that being said, that could have been a problem that made him fall a little bit. But competitor, yeah, I know, and he is related to Epinesa. Epinesa and him are cousins. And there's somebody else that he's related to as well. I can't think of who it is, but I think he mentions it in that podcast.
All right. Let's close out the show here because we're pushing an hour 485 now. So thank you.
On really quick, Steve,
sorry.
really quick, because we're gonna get yelled at. So we're just gonna flash Rashid's super chat here. But I don't agree with it. But we're gonna flash it because he paid for it. So we're gonna flash it.
And we actually have a couple more super chats to close out the show. Hey Rashid, we love your enthusiasm. Keep it. Rashid is the Anakin Skywalker of this comment section. The 8 is just fueling.
But he did like Taron Johnson, so he does like somebody on the bill. He does
someone.
Hey, you know what? I like him though because he's persistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
like he's not going away. Like
he's never wavered. He's been like that whole off season.
Dude, come to my channel and do that, man. Get people fired up, bro.
I'll tell you what. If Damond Talbot ever disagree with me, I just changed my tune real quick. So kudos to you.
I love this guy, man. He's great.
We got Jeff King, and then we have another super chat actually too. So we got 2 more to close out the show. A lot of skepticism with this draft. I get it, but if the 2 edge rushers work out and our defense can get back to form from 2 years ago, with our offense, I'm all in. Trust Bean. Yeah, the length is what really sticks out to me, and I also think that having these 3 edge rushers now in Carlos Basham, Ed Oliver, and Gregory Russo under contract while Josh Allen gets his extension. That's huge to me. Do you agree, Damon?
Yeah, and Epinesa. Don't forget him.
He
will have 10 sacks. He will have 10 sacks this year. Put it down. Ding the damn bell, Rico.
We got our boy Eric Schmidt, who, surprise, surprise, is at the gym pumping some iron. But he says, y'all need to pump that Hope everyone is enjoying the Mathematics and the Tilt Bill content. We got to think of a hashtag for Kendall.
We did. Kendology.
Oh, yeah. Kendology. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's the ironic part. I suck at math.
Eric Schmidt's awesome, dude. He's pumping gym. I was pumping iron last night, and I hit a freaking tweet button that almost, look, man.
I know.
Do we want to talk about? Do you want to clear the air about Casey Hayward?
Give him the mic.
Clear the air about this whole Casey Hayward situation.
Okay, well, I get a text message from somebody that I trust that's pretty well, I get some good sources. So they text me, they say, hey, look, Casey Hayward's signing. I don't go off of just text messages. So just because you text me and you tell me that, I still confirm because I'm going to look like a fool otherwise. So I'm getting ready to go to the gym. So I take it and I type in Casey Hayward's expected to sign with the Chiefs or with the Raiders, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I go to hit save tweet. I thought I saved it. Shut the computer down. Boom. I'm in the gym, right? My phone's going brr, 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 brr. I'm like, what the heck? So I go pull it up. I got 300 freaking likes and comments. I'm like, what the hell happened? So I open it up and everyone's like, oh, snap, he signed. I'm like, oh, snap. I had already hit up his agent, right?
Yeah.
And he had never responded back to me. So I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I open it up and sure as hell it tweeted instead of saving the tweet.
Yeah.
Now you're probably wondering, why do you save the tweet? Well, look, man, you know what? If I'm at the gym and he texts me back, yeah, he signed
send it out.
I hit the damn tweet and I'm good. So to me,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my life easier. So
right.
make a long story short, I will never be saving a damn tweet again. Okay. And then I had to go back out after his agent texted me. He's like, no, man, don't put that out there. We've talked, but don't, so now I got to like clear the air. So I have, oh man, so then I come out, hey guys, I'll eat, crow because I posted it. It was my bad. And I did try to clear the air.
You did.
I got some freaking emails that were like die. And I mean, it was intense. Raiders fans are like the meanest people in the world.
I'll dare say you over cleared the air. Like you
agree.
were overly apologetic. Like I thought you did like more than you needed to, I felt like, with apologizing.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't like putting out bad info, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I try to be right every time. Because if you're gonna do it right. You know what I mean? So hey Pierre, you almost caught some words from me. Wide receiver, stop texting. Twitter fingers over here. Hey, look,
man.
don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it, Pete.
Can we see that? I want to see that.
Kicker. No. The hell no, he's way bigger than me. He stood next to Josh Allen, made Josh Allen look like he was a field goal kicker. But look, I'll say this. You know what, man? It was funny, man. But I try to do the right thing. I don't want to put out no bad air, and I've never been one. I always try to clarify. So if I put something out there, I clarify it either with the player or with an agent. So I don't just tweet just because I'm bored. I'm not, but you got to remember something, it's hard to do. It's hard to do what Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport do, but it's a lot easier when you have all these agents that text you and tell you everything.
Right.
We very rarely deal with agents. We deal with players. So we're getting it from the horse's mouth most of the time. So, deep down inside, you know what, man, I messed that up, man. I hope Casey Hayward signs with somebody else now. I
hope he signs with the Bills. I hope he signs with the Bills. I hope you did us a favor.
I might have scared the Raiders away. I think the Raiders are watching my Twitter feed, so they probably seen it and were like, we got to sign
because
him.
Who did they drafted Leatherwood?
Alex Leatherwood, Nate Hobbs. My two biggest sleepers.
Man. Hey,
good point.
Mike Mayock, I see you. Give me a job. We don't have to deal with all this.
All right, so a couple of things. So we're at right about the hour 45 mark. So thank you so much for being patient with us. We appreciate it. Kendall, your job here is the ombudsman. What is something that you noticed throughout the show that you want to bring up, an opinion you want to share, something you want to challenge? What do you got for us?
Oh man, I don't want to get on my horse about this Tremaine Edmunds nonsense. I keep defending the man, and I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm just gonna die on this hill, and if you don't see me anymore, my corpse is on the hill. I'm done with the Tremaine Edmunds defense. It's my stance is out there. No, but the one correction I would put out there is, Damon, you said you see Tariq Thompson as a direct competition or potential competition to Saran Neal. And the one challenge I would put on that is I think Neal has a lot more athleticism and a lot more like straight line speed to be that gunner. And I don't know if Tariq Thompson has that in special teams, but I think he could certainly contribute on special teams. I just don't know if he would be like a gunner like Saran Neal is. Yeah,
I can see that. And I I'm not mad at you for saying that, but there's other football players that can be gunners.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, he's replacing him more.
Rachad Wildgoose could be a hell of a gunner.
That's a great
He's so
point.
damn aggressive. Run down the field and hit somebody.
Can I just say one thing?
Special teams.
I really, really hope that Isaiah Hodgins is good at special teams, because I really, really want Isaiah Hodgins to make this football team.
Yeah.
I think he gets cut.
Yeah.
Don't break my heart like that.
I know. I hate saying that.
All right. So We've officially reached an hour 45 mark. So Damon, tell the people where to find you. I'm sure most of them know where to find you at Draft Diamonds. I know you got the Facebook, you got the Instagram, you got the YouTube, you got the Twitter, but talk about what it is you do at Draft Diamonds and what content exactly it is you put out and what the people can expect now that draft season is over.
Basically, we talk draft. We talk football, college football to the NFL. You'll probably see a lot of political tweets. No, I'm just playing. I don't really do that. I mean, I will if you guys. If Rashid wants to pay me, I'll talk whatever the hell he wants to talk about. But no, I mean, we talk small school football. So we break down. We actually have a database. Our database is huge. It's sent to every NFL team. Our database is compiled. It has every small school football player from here all the way out to 2025. All right. And that's about how deep it is right now. We have, not only does it have that, it has their personal information, different things like that. Any arrests, history, stuff like that. That's what our scouting background, that's what our guys on the scouting back end do. And then what we do is we send that off to NFL teams. We talk draft all year. We actually work with all-star games. We've worked with multiple. I've worked with the East-West Shrine game, with the Raycom All-Star game. I've worked with the CGS College Gridiron Classes this year. We had 12 guys get drafted. And pretty soon you might hear some news about me working with another one. Let's just put it out there like that. But if God willing, you know what I mean? I mean, it sounds like it might be coming to fruition. But if it does, it'll be big. And, Draft Diamonds, we're trying to grow, man. Want to be like Buffalo Fanatics one day. But you can see this right here.
Oh yeah.
Repping.
I rep y'all. I rep y'all. I'm a diehard. I'm a ride or die guy. And you guys do a great job, man. And keep doing it. My man Tilt, he had to try to teach me StreamYard, man. So I'll give him mad props too, because you know what? One thing about it, right, is you have a lot of people that they know certain things. Like I know football. Tilt knows the internet, bro. I needed Tilt. So I needed you, kid, man. So I appreciate you. My first StreamYard was so rough. Dude, people probably thumb down my stuff. I don't even know if you can do that. But they had to thumb down.
They can. And
well,
I think they do it out of jealousy sometimes, I think. They just
it was not jealous. That was horrible. I don't even look, I should pay them for watching that crap. It was horrible.
I've asked Pierre to delete our first couple of shows. I'm like, just delete them. Pretend like they never existed. Spud1129 comes in and says, Hayward signed with the Vegas Raiders 10 minutes ago. So redemption.
Wow.
Let me hold on. Did they really? Let me see.
According to Spud.
Well, you know what? I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've got like 20 text messages since we've been on the show. So let me see. I gotta just see it for myself.
By chance said that Judge forgot about Morris McLeod. We actually touched on Morris earlier, but I don't know, McLeod. Do you have any thoughts on the corner McLeod from Notre Dame?
From Notre Dame? I think that God, he might be a sleeper. Mm-hmm. He might end up being a sleeper type of player. And I'll tell you what, it was fake news for real.
Apparently it's fake news. Sorry.
It's fake news.
I did not mean to.
Hold on, let me just double check, man. Hold
on. I'm not seeing anything on it.
No, I didn't get it. I know it's not real. So not yet anyway. They have talked. So but McLeod's a good player. And I don't think he has a real shot of making the team, but maybe I'm wrong. It depends. Maybe he's a little bit further ahead than some of the other players, but I don't know. I don't really like our corners. Are you guys confident with our corner? I'm kind of nervous about that. Outside of Tre, I'm nervous.
I was really hoping for an earlier draft pick at corner.
Me too.
And I was hoping we would have taken 3. We ended up taking 2. Tariq Thompson was kind of like a nice consolation prize, because to me, I would have drafted Tariq Thompson in like the 6th fucking round. So it was a nice consolation prize, but I would really like I just have a gut feeling Daryl Worley's gonna be back in the Buffalo Bills uniform before training camp. I think Daryl Worley will come back for some veteran experience. But a couple of questions just before we head out. I know we're at hour 50, and I really appreciate your time. But
how many people are on? Did we ever hit 400?
Not quite.
I don't think so.
I think 380 was the highest we got. We got pretty close.
Man, you guys are grounded.
But before we go though, 2 questions for you. I'll start with this one. Buffalo Bills might still have some roster spots, depending on whether it's 80 or 90 guys. Who are some small school guys who are still not unsigned? And what's the deal with Shane Simpson? Because I want Shane Simpson to be a Buffalo Bill.
Shane Simpson's still available as of last night. I haven't talked to him since.
He's a wanted man, apparently. He's a wanted man.
Yeah, I heard that a bunch of teams have hit him up. And I'll say this, you know what? Hey, look, Shane can return.
Yeah.
He can. He's fast as hell. So I don't know. I don't know where. I know that the Bills were interested, and I know that the Bills have been talking to him. I don't know how many roster spots they actually have left per se, because I didn't count them or nothing. But Shane Simpson would definitely be a guy. He started off 1,000, tore it up. I mean, one of the most amazing FCS players, and then he ends up going up to the Virginia and balling out there. So you know what? I like him. I don't know if the Bills they haven't added a running back. It would be a nice little addition to have something fun to see what he's capable of, compete with Christian Wade. But he might have a better fit somewhere down the road. You know what I mean? If there's another team, you know, Bills are kind of deep, and I know maybe we don't like the depth, but they do have some decent players back there. I will say this. No,
just quickly on this, the Bears signed him, I believe.
Facts. Coastal Carolina. So yeah, he did end up going to the Bears as a free agent. I'll give you a couple of sleepers that nobody's really talking about. The pool's very limited right now. There's a corner by the name of Jeremy Bell from Charleston, West Virginia. There was 2 kids that ended up going to Charleston, West Virginia that made the NFL already. One of them was Michael Strawn, and the other one is Kenny Randall. But Jeremy Bell's a competitor. He's a feisty kid. But he's a corner. He could be a guy that potentially gets signed next. We're really far down there as far as who's remaining. Another guy is really sleepy. There's this kid. I'm telling you, sleeper. There's a kid from Canada named
running back?
Ben Loddick. Okay. Yes, he's a linebacker. He's not a running back. You're thinking of Kyle Borsa. Kyle Borsa's a stud too. White boy, white lightning. The kid's fast as hell. But I will say Ben Loddick. Ben Loddick is 6'4", 240 pounds. Straight animal. Look at his RAS score, if they even had one. I bet you they don't have it on Canadians. But this kid tore it up. 4.55 laser, right? Jumped out the gym. You can type it in. You'll see it. If you type in Ben Loddick, you're going to see his pro day numbers up on my screen, up on Twitter. I had posted it up there probably a month ago or so. He's a guy that can play sideline to sideline. He's a stud. He came out of British Columbia, UBC, the University of British Columbia. He's a kid that should definitely make it. And then my sleeper, my last guy, is another corner. But pay attention, he's not a rookie this year. He was a rookie last year, but never had a pro day. He never had a pro day because he had an LCL injury. Ended up getting hurt, ended up having to recover. No team gave him a shot. Kid sitting at home, ended up going to the spring league just a couple weeks ago, led the league in interceptions, 13 all-time in JMU history for James Madison. His name's Rashad Robinson. Rashad Robinson should be on a damn NFL roster. This year, he tried to get into Marshall's Pro Day, tried to get into UVA, tried to get in VTech, tried to get in everybody in that Virginia area. Nobody would take him. And I'll tell you what, nobody's seen him run a 40. Nobody's seen him do anything. 13 career interceptions at JMU, 3 in the spring league. He's a freaking ball hawk. I hope the I can tell you, I hit up Dan Morgan and everybody today and told them, take my damn kid because he's a stud, and pounded the table. So hopefully he gets a shot, but that's my guy.
That's crazy to me. Like, no offense to Marshall or UVA or whatever. Like, why not give the fucking kid a shot? Like, what does it hurt to let the kid show up and run a 40? Like, it literally affects it does not affect your life whatsoever. It's not like this kid is like, Rudy coming out of the coal mines. He's a legit prospect.
Yeah, but a lot of teams get scared because he may be better than a player that they have on their
okay.
So then you're taken away from your player. So it's kind of like a catch-22 you're in. You know what I mean? So if you have an offensive tackle and then you bring in some offensive tackle and he does better than your offensive tackle, kind of like he just stole the show from your offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So a lot of schools are scared to that. And I can tell you, Rashad Robinson was a 5th round projection in my draft board last year. and I would have pounded the table for the kid last year. If he would have came out the year before, he would have been drafted.
Jeez. That's rough. Last question for you. The 2022 draft. Who are some small schoolers who are going to ball out this year that we need to keep on the radar for next year's draft?
Oh my Lord. We're already in 2022. It's crazy, man. I feel old. You know what? There's a lot of guys, but a lot of the great players from the FCS and from D2, they transferred up. It's crazy, but a lot of them went into the portal this year. A lot of guys ended up leaving from the small school, so you're going to see a lot of the small school guys actually playing for the FBS this year, which is a great opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll stay with a small school kid that nobody's really talking about. Is a Notre Dame college. It's a Division II school in Ohio. There's a tight end by the name of Zaire Mitchell. He's about 6'5", about 245. Kid is nasty. He's one of my sleepers that I love right now. So Zaire Mitchell is one. You can see his highlights on my YouTube if you type it in. Another guy is, let me think of who else would I think of as Christian Watson from NDSU, from North Dakota State, wide receiver. Speedster, can return. Dad played in the NFL. He's a guy that is going to be a stud. There's a lot of guys that are going to be studs next year. I don't know where they're all going to fall right now. I'm still building my board per se, but and I'm trying to find out where the hell everybody's going. Everybody's in the transfer portal, it feels like.
Oh yeah.
So with that being said, definitely that's going to be a problem. So I got to figure all that out first.
This year's draft was honestly, no offense to this year's draft class, but it was a breeze. Like every position, there was like 30 guys to scout. When in normal years, there's like 65 guys to scout. Next year's gonna be a fucking shit show. Like there's gonna be like 95 guys. They next year for the draft, just for all of our sake, should add a Sunday. And let's give us like 10 or 12 rounds next year, because next year's draft class is going to be loaded with talent.
They're going to have to move it up to 90 next year.
Like they're going to have to do something, because they literally turned to all these kids and said, "Hey, do you want to go undrafted or be a 7th round pick, or come back for like a 6 year of college and be like a gym class hero?" That's literally what they said to all of college football this year. And all these kids who were like, "Oh, I could be a 7th round draft pick to whatever team, or an undrafted free agent, fighting for a shot, or I could go back to whatever college and be the big man on campus for another year." Most chose to go back to college and be the big man on campus. Like, you did not see the undergrads like you usually see. You did not see like even seniors who are normally forced to go into the draft. You didn't see them. They all went back. So next year's draft class is going to be
but that's good for all-star games, because everyone's going to have good players.
Oh, they're going to need double the amount of all-star games next year.
Woo. Yeah. Don't talk. Less. We need less.
We're at to start the Draft Diamonds, the Draft Diamond Classic. The Draft Diamond Classic.
Yeah, and Rashid, start your donations, because we're going to need them. They're expensive.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Damon, you're the man. Like, honestly, this has been the coolest 2 hours. Absolutely. Like, picking your brain. The amount of promos I'm going to be able to clip by the words that came out of your mouth is honestly phenomenal. We're definitely going to have you back. I know you're Rico's go-to, but we're definitely going to have you back here on the Air Raid Hour sometime this offseason. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all you guys in the comment section. I'm sorry it took so long to get some of these super chats. We were just getting into some really awesome conversations tonight, so I do apologize for that. We will make sure we are more on top of the super chats on the next show. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
I got it first.